Welcome to the Whiskey Rant. So my name's Aaron. This is the channel where I drink whiskey and I rant. So I know it's been a while since I've done one of these things. So I've just been busy with work and school. Today, with the Kavanaugh hearings and everything, kind of got me going again. So the whole reason that I initially started the Whiskey Rant was because of the nomination of Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. I didn't like the nomination to begin with, so let alone the sexual assault allegations that have come out since. My initial problem with Kavanaugh was that in 2009 he wrote a blog, or I say blog, he wrote an opinion in the Minnesota Law Review, basically stating that he didn't think that a sitting president should be investigated for crimes. He felt that the job was too busy and too important, so for any of those distractions. This is after he worked with Ken Starr on Ken Starr's investigation into Clinton. And it's fair to say that he's allowed to change his mind. He's allowed to say that while I totally went after Clinton while Clinton was in office, after working with George W. Bush so closely, I saw that, wow, that was probably the wrong thing to do. And it's fair to do that. But in 2009, he wrote this opinion saying that, yeah, they shouldn't be allowed to be investigated, deposed, questioned, or anything. The problem with that is that if you commit a crime, let's say a year before you win the presidential election, or 2 years before you win the presidential election, there's a possibility of, if something like this were to happen, there's a possibility of not having any of that go into investigation or anything of that sort for 10 years almost after the fact. Look at Trump. So the election was in 2016. The wrongdoings would have occurred in 2015, or at least 2015. He could be president until 2024. So that's 9 years after the fact. Then we can start the investigation. Then we can, start the investigation. Then we can start crediting or questioning the key criminal, or the person who acted. This is pretty unsettling, given the current climate. So given that we basically all understand that Trump himself is not under a criminal investigation, but his campaign is, this could eventually lead to Trump being under a criminal investigation. The fact that Kavanaugh believes that Trump shouldn't be under an investigation is a massive red flag. Now, in the past months, or the past weeks rather, since they've started doing all the hearings and everything with Kavanaugh, he's refused to answer any real questions. He's always said, I'm not going to get into hypotheticals, not going to get into any hypotheticals. I was like, dude, I'm sorry, but you're a judge. In order to give you a litmus test on any of this stuff, you have to get into those hypotheticals. You have to sit down and you have to say, well, yeah, given the facts, or if these were the facts of the case, this is how I would rule. Or even if you're going to sit down and say, I'm bound by precedent. Bring me to the next point. In the early 2000s, there was an email that circulated with him basically stating that he did not believe that Roe v. Wade was settled law of the land, even though it had been on the Supreme Court, it had been settled by the Supreme Court in 73, I believe. So I could be wrong on that, but early 70s, if I'm not mistaken, and that's the way that it's been ever since. So it effectively legalized abortion, and of course you can get into issues with that if you wanted to. But my problem here is that he's almost lying, under oath during his hearings. Is he saying that Roe v. Wade is the settled law of the land? But that's not how he used to feel about it. And of course we can say that, well, he's allowed to change his mind. And he is allowed to change his mind. He changed his mind, obviously, when it came to whether or not a sitting president should be allowed to be investigated. And he could have changed his mind on Roe v. Wade. Nothing in any of his judgments indicates that he has, and nothing in any of his actions indicates that he has. Both of those are red flags to me. So Kavanaugh shouldn't be sitting on SCOTUS in the slightest. Now we come to today, where we have the hearing of Dr. Blasey Ford. So the first person who was named as an accuser against Brett Kavanaugh. It's concerning because I totally believe her. She comes across as completely believable, and I have no reason to doubt her. Kavanaugh, on the flip side of that, it's not to say that I don't believe Kavanaugh, but it is definitely to say that when it comes to Kavanaugh, his biggest issue is that he comes across as a whiny little bitch. Sorry. This dude is up for the Supreme Court, and he's complaining about having his integrity questioned. Oh, I'm sorry, dude. What about, this is why women don't come forward on or come forward in instances of rape and things of that nature. So as somebody who's actively trying to finish my damn criminology degree, yeah, we don't see women coming forward when rape happens or when sexual assault happens, because their integrity is questioned. It's not, oh my god, I'm so sorry for you, let's find out what happened and let's get the bad guy. It's, well, what were you wearing? Well, now, hang on. Are you sure you didn't flirt maybe a little too much? Did you have too much to drink? Did you do something? So, and this is the first time that Kavanaugh has ever been engaged in anything like that. So, or had his integrity questioned. So, and you can tell from his reaction. So, his entire 55-minute or however long it was opening statement was all about, so, woe is me. These things are happening to me and my family. Well, I'm sorry, but ever since the accuser was named, she's had to move out of her house, so due to death threats for naming you. So I'm sorry, kiss my ass with that shit, dude. So you will be fine. So Brett Kavanaugh will be fine. Sorry, I kind of directed that at him, as if he's ever going to see this. He'll be fine. So he's a rich white dude in the D.C. area with a badass law degree. Dude's going to be just fucking fine. So, I mean, I hope it comes out that, or I hope we get more truth, so to speak. I hope we get more evidence. I hope he's not confirmed. So the man has no business being on the Supreme Court based on nothing other than his record. So, and when people complain about him having been questioned more than any or all other justices combined, it's like, well, yeah, because he has a public record longer than all other justices combined. And apart from the sexual assault allegations, of which there's at least 4, I believe now, there's at least 3 that I'm aware of now. Apart from all of that, he does have these problems. He does have this history that we can actually look into and that we can actually read. He's not somebody who briefly sat on a court and then got nominated. He is somebody with a long history of public service. Or of service that we can look through and we should look through. So we should be allowed to look through all of these things. I mean, and again, the nomination process has just been, it's been almost, I don't want to say completely a farce, but it's been pretty fucking close. So when you have Mitch McConnell bitching about it, I'm sorry, dude. You refused to vote on Merrick Garland, so Obama's nomination, so until the election was over. Then you tried to play the same card about how, well, you tried to flip the card and say that the American people will not stand for not voting on the Supreme Court nominations. I was like, what an asshat. So anyway, moving on from that. The Kavanaugh thing, it drives me up the fucking wall with it. So there's no reason that man should sit on the Supreme Court. There's no reason that he should be nominated to the Supreme Court. So, and of course, I mean, I'm not president. I don't get to make those freaking decisions. But there are so many red flags between his record and these accusations, and the fact that he probably lied under oath during the hearings about never getting drunk. Like, I'm sorry, that's been the one thing that's been consistent about everybody saying, oh yeah, I totally used to get blackout drunk with Kavanaugh. Oh, it was well known that he would get blackout drunk. Then he denies ever getting blackout drunk. Nah, bro. You likely you got blackout drunk. I'm sorry, dude. So, but there's nothing about this nomination that makes me feel good. There's nothing about these hearings that make me feel good, except for the fact that we as a society have started giving more and more credence to the accusers. So that's probably the only thing that makes me feel good about this. So the whiskey that I've yet to even pour is Viking Honor from Highland Park. So it's honestly my favorite in Highland Park. It is really fucking good if you like Highland Park. So, and I thought that the honor portion in the name was quite fitting for this rant. So I know I kind of rambled. I know I said so a lot, and I may have lost track a little bit. But remember, I'm awesome. Till next time.